So how have you been anyway, lad? I know you said you
No,
were
I've been
freezing.
yeah, been all right. We've like through in during the first lockdown, we basically we moved studios, so we built we took over like an abandoned section of this mill, and we basically me and a mate just hard graft, just like turned it into a pretty good setup. It's still pretty DIY, but like it's definitely the best studio I've ever made, and it's good enough to make like like good standard proper records in. So
Yeah.
that just took up all our time and energy, and we're like close to finishing. We're just doing the like last mixing, which is obviously the hardest bit of the like new record, that'll hopefully give people some new stuff for the next year, trying to get ahead of the game while we can't do gigs. So, I'm just in that every day basically, which is, it's no bad thing. We'll get running water and a toilet eventually.
Central heating, maybe, if it gets fancy.
Yeah, I mean, central heating, I think, is definitely a pipe dream.
I mean, I've heard of worse projects to have over lockdown.
Yeah, totally. This is what I mean. Like, we didn't have it for a lot of the first half, because we were just locked out of our old studio because the building was shut. So we were just like, right. Obviously, we saw this coming, so we were like, let's just bite the bullet. Let's just build, a new space. But man, it's cool. We got I'm having to push because we're recording a band on the weekend as well. So we're giving back. It's not just us.
So you record your own other bands while you're there, and not just your own stuff.
Yeah. So because my whole thing was like, I don't know whether it's just because, like, at some point you do have to kind of recognize your sort of, when you've been, say like gigging in a town for over 10 years, at what point do you recognize you are the like older crowd, in there? And so I'm like, well, rather than just be some like old fart watching like young bands come through, I just always thought like, well, we should be giving people that deserve an opportunity just a hand. It's not like all of a sudden what we do, is like changing the world, for some band. But my point is like, particularly if you're a band up north, from like even not necessarily in the city centre, you're like a northern band, you don't have the same opportunities that would be afforded to like a London band of your stature, And I was just like, no, man, if you deserve, if we've got like musicians that are like trying to do something and really hard working, and what like make something happen, I'll be the one to go, you know what? Let's give those guys a hand. Let's just give them a little nudge, because it's so easy to not be a musician. It's really, really easy, man. So I was always like,
it's bands you like you get in. It's
if I see a band,
Robin Hood.
Well, this is the thing. I'm like, if I see a band that I think need a bit of encouragement, and just a bit of a hand, like just a bit of a help. Like I say, it's not like we can suddenly throw loads of cash at them and like fix all their problems. But if by building this thing, if there's basically our approach was, everyone's fucked, so you might as well be fucked together. You know what I mean? And if someone gets like a way better opportunity, I'm like, great, perfect, But if nothing better comes along, then I'll give I'll give people my time, and I'll give them a hand, because then all of a sudden you've got a load of Manchester bands getting to do something again. So that was my approach, really. So
it's very honourable of you to just like help out the smaller bands.
Well, someone's got to, because if you don't, like,
Absolutely.
This is the thing. Someone like someone has to be that person, because even when I was like doing my first ever like shows, like learning to be a musician, like learning to play on stage, where you're like, I've written these songs and I'm like 14, and I had people in Manchester that would be like, no, I'll put him on. Yeah, he's shit. He's just like a kid, and we'll basically put him on when the doors open in front of no one. But there's a kid who's serious, who's like trying to be a musician, So I had people like that allowed me to. It was the encouragement to go like, oh no, this is valid, even if you're shit at that point, And so I just thought, well, at what point do you can't always just assume those people are going to be around unless you are deciding to actively be that person,
It's quite amazing that, actually. I was expecting to do like a whole like proper intro and like getting everyone introduced to each other. You go straight into like, I'm like the Robin Hood of music. You're helping out everyone they need. That's brilliant. I mean, I know so many bands that would kill for that opportunity. I mean, someone's got to do it.
Yeah, exactly. It's
brilliant.
My thing is, you genuinely like, if if someone pays attention to you, and I like the thing, you don't have to be good, like, and I don't necessarily need you to be the finished version, but if I see a band that I think have like got something, and what I care about more is like a willingness to work, then it's so hard being a band. And like I've seen so many of like my friends' bands and just like bands on the scene where, say, they've been given a bit of cash, and so they've had a bit of money spent on them, and then all of a sudden things don't pan out, which is like the case for most. And a lot of bands that have been given cash, like kind of right from the off, they all of a sudden find themselves in a situation where they never learned how to be like DIY, because they never had to. And if you're one of the lucky ones that never has to learn how to be DIY, fantastic, like that's super cool. But my vibe is like, right, I want to just be there to show bands how to be like self-sufficient, so they can continue being a band, because I just know the reality for 99% of bands is like, no one's gonna help.
No, I get you. It's a very good thing to do. I mean, how long exactly was it? Like the majority of lockdown to put that studio together, or was it like
we
a month
built
here or there?
Yeah, we built it in a month. I mean, and it was like the hardest month I've ever had. Spent like I was like broken, and it took us to some pretty odd places where I was like, cool, I guess I'm just disposing of all this asbestos then. Cool, that seems safe, but like that's, while I've been making this record, we've basically moved locations 3 times, and we were like, I'm fucking done with this.
It could be a bit of good inspiration, I guess, travelling around. Or was it like you're still in the same area, just down the street?
Yeah, you're just getting bounced from shitty room to shitty room. So we were like, right, let's try and find a spot that appears to be more permanent. If I can get 3 to 4 years out of this room, it's pretty sizable, and we can slowly do up. I've got this whole section of a mill, and just fingers crossed, things stay like that side of town stays like abandoned, and I can get a few years out of it before we get inevitably kicked further out.
Inevitably. No hope. Well, I guess with your current, with the album coming out anyway next week, might I add? Nice little shout out for you there. I guess you don't have a lot of time to yourself. You're just sorting it, trying to get it done, mastering all the mixing. I mean, is that how it works a week beforehand?
No. That album that's coming out was finished at mid 2019.
Wow.
Yeah.
That early.
Yeah. We were like, and bear in mind, we were touring, And so this is the thing. This album that's coming out, I feel like people that have got to see us play, you know, that they know all the songs. So I don't feel as bad the fact that we can't tour when it comes out, you know, because I definitely feel like we gave it a run of playing. Obviously, I really want to play the songs to people when they've actually heard them. You know, that would be really nice. But you know, until that point happens, I don't feel this like tremendous sense of loss because I've at least got to, you know, we've gigged it a bunch, and then it was like, oh, we were always gonna put it out like this year, but with everything that happened, I was just like, let's just put it out in whatever manner we can, and because as long as people at the end of the day get a physical record, and that's the best bit. Like the people that like my music love buying records. I'm like, that's so cool. So I don't mind not doing shit on Spotify if everyone who wants to hear you's bought a 12-inch. That's like infinitely cooler.
Well, yeah, definitely. So the huge delay, that was due to... Did you always plan to make it in 2019, release it this year? Has that always been the plan? Or
kind
was
of, because
it down to
basically...
COVID?
Well, like 2019, I feel like it was done in 2019. We were touring a bunch. I think I was also doing... I think I might have done some Hans Zimmer stuff as well. You know, so it's like factoring in when you've got like an album time. I mean, don't get me wrong, I would have loved to have put it out in like 2018 or the start of 2019, but it just kind of is that, you know, we were like, oh, should we see if someone wants to put it out? And then we realized very quickly, we were like, I feel like putting it out just myself always ends up being at least more what I'm kind of after. Because then we wasted a lot of time like looking for labels to tell us, oh yeah, we'll put it out even later than you'd be able to. So I was like, right, fuck that.
Well, just very, very quickly, you brushed over something quite important there. Hans Zimmer. Whoa.
Oh, yeah. So
I've seen him on your Instagram quite a bit. You were like... Have you been recording with him? Were you just touring with him? Run us through that.
So I'm Hans's guitar player. So I've been the guitar player since like 2016, I think. And so we do a lot of touring. You know, like we tour with the live band, which is a pretty fucking good show. Like it's. Because at its core, it's just like a really mental rock band. So, you know, if you saw the show, you kind of don't know where to look because there appears to be like that many of us on stage. Because there's like a full band, and then there's a full orchestra behind us, and then there's a choir behind that. You know, so you're immediately like, whoa. There's so many people on stage, this is nuts. But when you actually like boil down to it, like you like boil it down, it's like, you know, drummer, bass player, 2 guitars, couple of synths, you know, and then like that's and then the string section, like a 4-piece string section. And we could play everything in that stripped down version, but because it's Hans and we want to make like the biggest, most kind of nuts noise ever, we go like, well, let's have 4 drummers, you know, and then like that's where shit gets pretty interesting. But like when we did, you know, but like when we did the Lion King, like, you know, that remake that was out, I don't know, was it a couple of years ago or something now? The like new CGI one, when we were playing all those songs in the studio, I think there was only 9 of us.
Really?
Yeah,
that little.
That's what I mean. It's like you'd be surprised at what noise can be made. But I feel like I might have been doing, you know, so basically I fit my stuff in around doing like Hans's thing. So we were able to build this new studio because there's a movie I did the soundtrack for that comes out next week. And so I was like, okay, well, I just got I did a movie, so I'll build a new studio with that money,
What movie?
It's called Hillbilly Elegy. It's got like Glenn Close and Amy Adams in. It's Ron Howard directed it.
Ron Howard directed it.
So
Wow.
some very big names there.
Yeah, some very big names. I mean, and obviously that was supposed to be in cinemas, but I think it's just coming to Netflix.
Is it like how do you go about writing for a movie? Do they give you the scenes beforehand? I'd imagine they do. Did they give
No,
you
so
the theme?
I still haven't seen any of it. So you basically, I get told like, oh, okay, we want to do it. We want it to feel like this. So my friend was like doing the sort of musical directing for it, and he calls me and he's like, I think it should kind of be like this. And we've worked together a long time, and he knows me, so he can kind of go, I want you to like make a load of weird noises, and but it's got to be like, it's a movie set in like rural Kentucky, so it's got to feel, it can't just be like synths. So I was like, cool, I can't play synths. And I get brought on to basically be, I do two roles really. Like, I'll like do proper kind of indie, what I consider as just like really good rhythm guitar playing. Because, there's loads of people that can shred. But all of a sudden, I'm like, when you're in film world, you're like, no one can play like rhythm guitar, like proper rhythm guitar. Like when we did The Lion King, it was like, no, it needs to feel more African. And they're like, I've got just the guy. And a load of the people that were like these African guys that were doing the like music, making sure it was like the music was on point and authentic. And then they're like, perfect, you've got a guy, great, okay. And then I turn up and they're like, who is this white boy? And I'm like, no, trust me, this is what I can do. And but for this movie it was like, make it sound edgy, weird. And so I took that as, well, it's set in Kentucky, I'll do it on like loads of acoustic instruments, and play harmonica and shit like that. And then I just send a load of stuff back and forth between the other musicians doing it. And then it gets made into the movie.
So it's very much a group effort then. It's not just Hans sitting down, racking his brain around, right, how am I going to make this scene? Yeah,
it's like there'll be a core group of like 4, something usually like that. And then there'll be, once you've made all the music, then there's like loads of people putting it together, who are like really good at programming it and like mixing, and that's where your team suddenly gets massive. But it's a good thing, it's like fun to get to do both. I don't think a lot of indie musicians get to like think in like a super cinematic way and kind of off the wall, and then just like get up in a club and play like Part-Time Girl. You know what I mean?
You've got a very diverse sort of role as a performer, don't you, really?
Yeah, man, I get to like play stadiums and then shit venues. It's fantastic.
Where's the biggest place that you played with Hans then?
We headlined Coachella. Like,
wow.
It was the second gig. The second gig I ever played with him. And and we were one of the Coachella headliners. And it, as like an English kid, you suddenly at Coachella and we played to, I think, about like 80,000 people when we went on. And it's like,
fucking hell,
the sun's just gone down and you've got like a warm breeze, but you're really grateful for the fact that like the temperature's started to drop, but you've got like a warm breeze hitting you, and there's all these like insanely attractive, where everyone just looks beautiful in the audience, as I'm like looking out in front of all these people in the middle of the desert, when you kind of have a few moments where you're just like, yep, this is pretty great.
I mean, was that like kind of, considering that was your second gig, was that kind of like, did that sort of feel like it came out of nowhere? Was it like probably throwing you in at the deep end, or?
No, you know what was kind of funny with that one, like, and I think Hans has told this story a bunch, like, but it does make me laugh. Like, I didn't know, this is at sort of like 2016, and we got the band together to rehearse, and you know, so we'd done like a couple of weeks rehearsals. And then it was like, okay, the tour's going to start, and we had like a warm-up show in front of like 6,000 people and all these like critics in LA, and then it was like straight into Coachella. And these guys don't really like play festivals. You know, they don't play rock gigs. You know, they're like classical musicians and like studio heads. And and just before we were about to leave and we were doing the set list, like Hans was making all these changes to the set list, and he was like, "Oh, it's going to be like this," and da 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 da. And I'm like sitting there, and I don't know these people, you know, and I'm like, I'm the only one that can't read music, and I've got like the highest level of imposter syndrome, you know, like you could ever imagine. And I'm sitting there listening to the set list that they're going to do for Coachella, and I'm like, nope, this is wrong. And you know, and at the end of a really long 2 weeks of practicing, we were like, he was like, okay, right, any questions? And I just had to put my hand up. I was like, I can't believe I'm gonna have to do this. I put my hand up, you know, and everyone's like, who the fuck is this kid? Like, and I was like, I think the set list is wrong. And this is why Hans is brilliant. And Hans and like the musical director, to their credit, they were like, okay, present your idea. And then I basically had to explain to him like what a festival vibe is. And I was like, no, man, you got to like open with Inception. I'll get the crowd going. Like, we'll start it, get all the foghorns, you know, like open with the foghorns. And then, you know, and then we just hit like, it'll be like, bam, Gladiator, bam, Lion King, you know, like Pirates of the fucking Caribbean. Like, get all the walk up where people are like, holy shit, I didn't know he did that. You know, like, fucking hell, I'm watching an orchestra in the desert vibe. And so now, whenever we play a festival, it's like, oh shit, let's just throw Nile out first, like, because he's the like indie guitar player. So I'm like stood at the front on an ego ramp, you know, like doing the start of Inception or something. It's pretty funny. It's just it's just when you think, like, I'm used to it, you know, but it's just a very, very strange, like, alter ego that I get to occupy.
Did you get to go around Coachella at all? Did you get to see everything, or was it very strictly business?
No, I mean, we were there all day. Like, I was just kind of hanging out, you know, like people watching. I bumped into my, like, the biggest musical hero of my entire life, just accidentally, which was fucking brilliant. So I was like, I was just riding high off that, you know. It's good people watching. Like, the food's really great. No one's like vomiting on themselves. You know, it's not like an English festival.
It's not a proper
Yeah, well, this is
festival.
the thing. I've had this discussion. Like, I, as a non-drinker, love it. But there does come a point where I'm like, someone should be sick somewhere. But, you know. But then the other part of me is like, man, this is so pleasant, you know. No one's like screaming the word cunt, you know, at the top of their lungs. Like,
Oh, that's the reason you love English festivals, though.
Yeah,
that kind of
that's what it's
stuff.
no, that's what I mean. I completely acknowledge there also has to be Leeds Fest. You know what I mean? Where it's just absolute filth.
But yeah, I suppose Coachella is just a different kind of atmosphere. You said that you bumped into your musical hero. Who was that?
So it's Ian Mackay from Fugazi. So he's the godfather of DIY. You know, he's like the OG, like, non-drinker, like vegan, straight edge, I'm more punk than you, you know, because I'm going to do everything myself, dude. And the guy that check this out. So Ian was telling me why I was like, why are you here? This is so weird. It's like Coachella's like a big corporate thing, you know. And he's like, ever since the first Coachella, Ian Mackay gets invited to go every year to make sure shit's still pretty cool. Like, man, they had the foresight to be like, well, we're starting this festival. Let's give Ian Mackay free reign. So if he sees stuff where he's like, I think that's pretty naff, he'll then like write up a report and be like, I think that's pretty naff. Whether they listen to him doesn't matter, but I think that's pretty fucking cool to be that self-aware.
So he's Coachella's king of cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure he'd be happy with that title, but I just loved that he's like, yeah, my job is to basically be like, are things getting too like corporate, you know? But that was just
getting
fun.
hired purely to like vibe check. That's insane.
Yeah, totally. I know.
Brilliant.
Yeah. But yeah, so that was cool, you know.
You said you were talking about Reading and Leeds. You've played there, haven't you?
Oh yeah. We've done Reading and Leeds.
How does it compare to Coachella then? In your opinion, which one did you prefer?
Obviously, I preferred Coachella, man. It's in the sunshine. It's classy as fuck. Like, but you know, I went to Reading and Leeds like as a teen. You know, year on year, like a man got his dick out while I was like having to like sit through Foals to watch someone like I think like Yeah Yeah Yeahs play or something like that. You know, so I've had my fair share of Reading and Leeds stories. Playing them's really fun because you play Leeds, and like this was early days in like Man-Made, and what I think's kind of naff is like, you know, if you're kind of a small band, they don't feed you or anything like that. You're just kind of on your own. And we played Leeds, and then we were going to go. So then we drove down to do Reading the next day, and we managed to like scam from another band that we knew that were like higher up on the bill some like meal tickets. So we were just like, right, fuck, let's go into catering. And we're like middle of a tour, you know, looking just filthy, you know, like sleeping on the ground, filthy. And at the time I was like, all the band, we used to wear like loads of glitter. So we've got like just old glitter like crusted onto your face. And we were like, shit, okay, free food. Right. So we basically like took over this table that Papa Roach was sitting on and all his crew. And we were just like, budge over. Yeah, we were just like, mate, budge over. And like me and the band like sat there with like a disgusting amount, you know, like a stomach churning amount of food because we were like, it's free, let's power on. And then and he was just looking like appalled because we were so hungry. I was like, oh, they don't have the blender, fuck it, I'll mash a banana and like almond milk and, you know, like some cinnamon and shit like that. And I was like mashing it in a styrofoam cup and just like chugging that while eating like shitloads of greens. And they were just looking at us like they were so appalled at our behaviour. They all like got up and left. But that was my big memory of Reading and Leeds, the first time we played it.
Yeah, because you were wearing that sexy gold glittery jacket, weren't you?
Yeah, man. It wasn't sexy if you could smell it.
I can bet you it's not. I'm surprised. I was surprised to hear that you had to sleep on the floor. I mean, I thought they would, you know.
We still sleep on the floor.
So I mean, yeah, but I'm surprised that they didn't just sort of like, you know, throw you in one of the. I don't know if they had them back in, I think 2014 was it when you played? But you know, the glamping tents, surely they could throw you one of them.
I mean, you'd think so, wouldn't you, mate? You know, but no, the way we tour is like so low cost because we're like, okay, well, we can play these towns. You know, say like we played Inverness more than any English band I think going. Because we were always like, no, fuck it, we can get there because we're so low cost, you know, and it's being low cost allows you to keep touring, you know, and so if it means we call up a friend and we're like, we're all playing this town, can we sleep on your floor? That's saved money, you know, which means you can, it doesn't mean that money goes into your pocket, it means you can play another town, you know.
So it's definitely more of a keep it for the maintenance costs when you're first starting. Was this when you were like first began to tour? You're just scraping through day by day, that kind of those kind of stories, or was it more?
This is still touring, man. Like we played the last. I mean, obviously with coronavirus, you know. But so what, like 2019, I think we played Dot to Dot, you know, which is like Manchester, Nottingham, Bristol, and we were only getting paid 50 quid a show. And it's like, okay, you've got a lot of travel in there, and so you've got petrol, you've got if you were to do like hotels, or if you didn't own a van, all of that adds up, and you couldn't get paid 50 quid a show and make it work. And I did all the costs for that weekend. It only cost us £130. You know, and I tell my friends like Dan, you know, who was like our original like tour manager, sound guy, like in the Van Buddy, who now does all the ETMs for Blossoms. So he's in like the big time. And I told him, I was like, guess how much it cost us to play Dot to Dot? You know, and he knows how low cost we are. And he was like, 500 quid. I'm like, mate, £130. And shit like that just blows his mind. But you got to do it. You got to do it to continue, to be able to continue to play shows.
Rock and roll on a budget there.
Yeah. You know, no one's going to do it for you.
So you were talking about going to Leeds and Reading. Last time was with Man Made, wasn't it? Your old band. So
Yeah.
What ended up happening with them? How come, you know, Man Made isn't really a thing anymore, or is it?
Well, it basically, like, we toured so much, you know, from literally when we started, when it was like, it was non-stop. And when you are touring to the level at which we did, you know, where we said yes to every gig. We played in people's houses. We like played in the weirdest house parties, you know, where we were just like, because we'll just say yes, because we were so low cost, you know, so it was really like, well, fuck it. Yeah, of course we can play. So I think we were really burnt out. And then I joined Hans's band. And then, so I basically toured that first tour. I was away for, you know, like 11 months touring. And at that point, it was like, well, when there's only 3 of you in the band, so like we'd written a bunch of new songs just before I went out with Hans, and we got a new drummer in because we needed it to sound different. And when there's only 3 of you and you change a third of the band, it kind of changes the sound quite a lot, you know. So and to be honest, I was just like, I felt like I still write all the songs, you know. So the way Man Made and like my album works is exactly the same. It's just got like different dudes on it, you know. But
yeah,
I think we were just like, it just felt like I was at an age where I just thought as well, like, you know what, this is my solo, like, we're just going to do the solo thing now, even though functionally it's basically the same band. I'm just not going to wear gold sequins.
So are the other guys sort of still involved in music, or have they just sort of gone their own ways in life, or?
Well, Cal's on this record, that's coming out. You know, so he's still on it, and then the drummer, like, who's new to this for this record that's you know, the impending release, he's in a bunch of bands, you know, like he is like Mr. Smooth, I always feel like, oh, holy shit, like we've bagged him, he's great, you know. So you get to, I think as well, you get to an age where you just like, one of the things I always liked about American bands is everyone's always in each other's bands, because also you get to an age where it's just, you just want to make music, you know, so you'll go with whoever's making music if you want to be a musician, you know. And I think that's when things get really cool, where you're just like, yeah, of course I'll do that project, you know. There's no like weird ego thing. You have to just be like, yeah, I'll do it. What, are you making music? Cool.
So you just pick and choose whatever band you fancy then. It's that easy to get in a band.
I mean, I've been in so many bands, you know, like, just because of people I just like to be, you know, like I like to be around, and that's what makes it like interesting, you know. I mean, like, I can't really give you too many details, but while we're mixing this, I got roped into doing, this like new project that I can't really give too much information away. That's going to be like another release,
Of course.
in in 2021. So it's like shit like that where you go like, we've got a record coming out, we're doing another record, and I'm doing a bunch of other people's records. If you're not being a musician every day, then you're not a musician. I don't mean you have to play every day, but like you have to be a musician every day.
Got to try and keep yourself busy.
Yeah, no, totally. And because we can't do gigs, you're freed up. It's not a loss. You're free to do other stuff,
I suppose that would be a lot of sort of musicians' complaints this year, wouldn't it? That they haven't sort of got enough to do. But, I mean, finding other ways to, other areas to get involved in within music must be great in terms of forwarding your own career.
It's a drag not being able to play live because live is the most fun. But, like, you can section off a whole part of your brain that's normally always running in the background where you're like, I have to know how to play these songs, and I can just shut that off and just, like free up that real estate to like make other things. It's like creatively quite freeing, not having the pressure of, oh shit, I need to like be rehearsed,
Because you'd imagine that, well, when we first went into lockdown, the first thought that came to my head was straight up, wow, we're gonna get so much good music coming out of it, because all the musicians are going to be doing nothing. They're all just going to be sat down writing new tunes for us. We're going to get an influx of albums coming out late this year, and the next year. But I think a lot of people just found it was kind of difficult to record at times. I've been told to get the time, get everyone together safely.
Yeah, and also like there's nothing very inspiring about just like sitting in your house all day. Like you have to be experiencing shit to feel creative. So I don't like, that's the thing. Like I really this year I do not put any pressure on myself, or I would encourage people not to put pressure on themselves to have created anything of worth this whole thing, because I'm just like, whatever you just like, you do you this year, whatever you needs to be to like be able to fucking function when nothing fun is allowed. I'm like, whatever you need to do to get by, to get up in the morning, do that. That's totally cool. Even if that is like shower once every week, I would maybe suggest more. But even if you're like, all I can manage is a shower every 3 days and I'm just watching TV, I'm like, as long as you feel okay, that's fine. That's enough,
We here at a certain podcast do not recommend showering once a week, by the way, guys.
No, nor would I, because I'm like, it's not going to help you feel better. But you know what I mean? Like the principles there. But like, I also wouldn't suggest taking loads of drugs on your own inside either. That might make you feel amazing. I still wouldn't suggest it,
But just before, not too long ago, you said you were really into American bands. Is that would you say where the majority of? I know a lot of people don't like to say influences. They like to say it's a lot of their own music. But is that what you listen to a lot? American bands mainly.
Yeah, that's all I know. Like that's all I cared about. And also I lived there as a teenager, so like. My dad was in an American band. My dad joined my favourite band and we moved to America as a teenager. I was like, that's pretty fucking cool. Like, that's where I'm like, God damn, I suddenly moved to a town that all my favourite bands lived in, and I'd like walk down the street and I'm like, oh shit, that's so-and-so. Oh my God, that's so-and-so. And you're just hanging out, and like all these American bands to me just felt like, this is what makes me want to make music, and it was loads of, and I still, that's just what excites me. I'm not writing off British bands at all, but when you grew up here, everything felt like unimaginative for me because it just wasn't inspiring, because I grew up in it. And so like, and that's the thing, all these American bands that I love, they are trying to copy English bands, because they're like, oh my God, they're singing about like dreary cobbled streets. And I'm like, I fucking live on a dreary cobbled street. I don't want to hear about it. Like I want to hear like Canadians make like really, really beautiful music that has like a violin in, or like, shit like that where I'm like, I don't want to hear like a Manchester band, but so, and I think as well, when that like 12, like 10, 11, from like 11 really, and then you're 13, 14 when you start getting really emotional with music. But like that period where you're just like the sponge years, whatever you latch onto there, I think it never leaves you, because I hammered those bands that I was into so much. And it's still, I'm always trying to make the same songs that I heard when I was 14, 15. I'm still just constantly trying to do a version of that, and I never get it right, So that's why I keep doing it. But especially now I've sort of made quite a few, even though I've not had many records out, like, because I've made quite a few records. I've written a lot of songs, and when I listen through to all these songs that I've got, like, to me, it's just the same themes. I'm trying to like do the same thing, and I will keep trying to do the same thing until I feel like I get it right.
Were you all, like, I know I wouldn't be happy if my dad joined my favourite band. It would kind of ruin the thing for me. I'd say it's like just initially. I mean, like, what did you get to meet? It was Modest Mouse. Am I right? Am I up to date with my?
Yeah.
Yes, get in. I'm not an indie joke, but like I guess I wouldn't be that happy at the time, because I get your I like my music to be my music, if you know what I mean. I'm happy that other people like it, but to me it would be like, why are you gigging in on my kind of my vibe, Dad?
I was just like, holy fuck, this is going to be nuts, and it was the coolest thing. And I basically just stopped going to school and just was like on tour with my favourite band. Like, it was great. And their shows were so good. That was this period where, like, that was the first time I'd seen like proper grown-ups with tattoos. I'd never seen that before. Like, it seems crazy to talk about now, but this was like early 2000s, and I'm from England, and the only tattoos I'd ever seen, in real life were like faded football tattoos, or like like kind of racist shit, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden I'm like, I'm around all these adults with tattoos that are like really cool. I was like, I want to do that. That's so, that I didn't know you could do that. That's fucking great. Like, and then they played so many outdoor venues, because the Modest Mouse are like the big outdoorsy, guys. And then, like I say, that time creatively, they were really, all the shows were improvised. Seeing a fully improvised show that some nights really works, other nights is a total fucking train wreck. Like that, being in front of loads of people, because they had their record was like number one for ages. So the crowds were massive, playing these outdoor venues. Like, I've seen Modest Mouse crowds affect the weather, like in the desert, where you have like 60,000 people in the desert. Like, it's shit like that as an English kid, as a 15, 16-year-old. And you're suddenly around, because it's not just Modest Mouse, it's all the other bands that were around, Like, I remember, I think, and then this is why it's like, I think those bands you see at that age, there's something about that age where when you see it, it just kind of, like, it hits a spot and then never leaves. Like, I think the first time I ever went to Glastonbury, the lineup was the Cribs into Modest. So this was on like the Pyramid stage. It was like the Cribs, which is where my dad first met the Cribs as well. Which is what led to the Cribs. But it was Cribs, into Modest Mouse, into Bright Eyes when he was playing with like a 30-piece orchestra where he was all wearing white, and then into Arcade Fire on their first album, into Bjork. You know, I was like, that was just one lineup. And I think TV on the Radio were also playing as well, maybe. And like, you know, it was shit like that where you suddenly around all these really great bands you love, and they're all friends, you know. And I was like, holy shit, this is what an amazing experience to have as like a 15-year-old, you know. So those kind of things, and like being around all the influences that, you know, the people that influenced Modest Mouse were all these American bands that I wouldn't have gotten to as early as I did in my like musical education, you know. So I basically got to like leapfrog my like American band learning, you know, and it was just like all really interesting guitar.
So being around all these crazy different people, crazy different bands from such an early age, I'm guessing you were pushed to be pretty creative from an early age. Am I guessing correctly?
I mean, I wasn't really pushed. I was just let, you know, like I was just allowed to do it. Like that's the thing. I had parents that their whole vibe was, if you get good marks in school, you can do whatever the fuck you want because they can't complain, you know. So it was like, as long as you turn in work when they need you to turn in work and it gets marked well, we don't mind you not showing up to school because you were at a gig. Like if I was just like dossing off, that would be a problem. But I'd be like, no, I'm going to see a band, you know, like somewhere weird in the country because I really want to go and do that, you know. And they're like, well, you'll learn more from... That's a better life experience than being in school, but it's that balance, you know. But it was never like, you have to do something, you know.
So it wasn't more of a case of you were born with a guitar in your hands, it's more like you picked one up.
Yeah, it was funny. It was just born around guitars. Like, I thought, like, I didn't realize... I thought I got to guitar quite late. Like, I remember, like, it feeling like I got to guitar maybe 14, and I always felt like that was late. But then I, like, look at old family photos, you know, and I'm, like, a little toddler interacting with a guitar. Not just, like... You know, like, they weren't, like, passive things. I'm, like, engaged with a guitar all the time from a really young age, and I didn't realise that. But, like, I didn't have to... That wasn't something I would have had to have done, because I was never, like, pushed to do it. And also, I used to... When I started writing songs, I used to realise I would write songs because I knew then my parents wouldn't get, like, on my back about doing my homework. Because I'd be like, I realised that kind of young, I was like, if I'm writing a song, they won't ask me to do schoolwork. So I'll just write loads of songs as a way of avoiding school, you know.
How old were you when you started writing your own music then for like the first time?
I was like 13, 14, you know. Weirdly, one of the songs that probably for a long time was our like most well-known song. That's on the first Man-Made album. I wrote when I was 14, you know.
Which one was that?
Bring Some.
Oh, wow.
You know, but like, and I always played it because I was like, man, people really like it. That's so cool, you know. But then, you know, it would feel weird to play it now, you know. But it was funny when we were doing that Man-Made tour, and I'm like, some of the guys in the band are like, man, you know, because it's a really simple song. Audiences loved it, so we always played it because it was like good fun. As soon as you start playing it, you were like, oh man, this is great. But we'd never practice it because they're like, oh, I'm really bored of it. And I'm like, you guys are bored of it? I've already been playing this song for over 10 years. You know?
Do you still play any of the Man-Made songs, or will you be when you...
Oh, yeah. Like, because when we toured... I realised that's what people know. And a lot of people had never seen Man-Made play. You know, our audiences have gotten bigger. And I'm like, a lot of people never saw us. So, for example, like, I still love playing High Tech Low Life. I love that people love it. You know, it like, we play it at shows and I start that riff. And it honestly, it's why, like, I know some bands, it's like no smiling on stage. Like, no smiling, we've got to look cool. I was always like, fucking grin. You know, like, beaming from ear to ear, because it's fun. You know, and, like, I don't know whether I just never bought into that, like, we're too cool to look like we're enjoying it thing. And I was like, man, if people are enjoying it, I just want our gigs to feel like they were a good time. And some of that man-made stuff, I'll still play. Like, Car Sick Cars it works, you know. Or like, we started towards the last few shows that we did, we started throwing TV Broke My Brain back in the set. You know, and we change, that's the thing, you change them. So it still feels like a fresh song. But having that's what amazes me, that like, that first man-made record, people still like. You know, people still listen to, and I think it holds up. I'm like, that's really fucking cool.
I mean, I think it absolutely does hold up. I've listened to it quite a few times in preparation for this.
No.
I mean, I'm going to be completely honest. I hadn't heard about Man Made before this, but yeah, it's been quite an enjoyable listen.
You know, it's like an indie pop record of its time. Yeah. That's the thing. To me, it feels really old now. You know, and also it's like scruffy, because it was like we were learning to play. You know, really, like properly. But I'm just like, and the song, that's the thing, when we play it live, when we play some of those old songs live, we're better. You know, we're better than when we recorded them. So the like songs are better, you know.
What's the plan in terms of, have you got any like gigs and tours planned for next year yet, or are you sort of still waiting to see and play that by ear?
We're just playing it by ear, because I don't want to be like, you know, I appreciate some people are like, no man, I couldn't give a fuck. I'm young, my audience is young, like, you know, let the chips fall where they may. But I'm of the vibe where I'm like, a bit of solidarity with everyone that isn't doing stuff. And I don't want to be responsible for, like, putting people in a compromised position, you know. Because, like, the people going to the gigs might be fucking fine, you know, and they might be super healthy and, like, strong immune systems. But you just don't know what other people you're putting at risk by playing. And to me, doing a gig isn't worth it unless everyone feels safe. You know, like we used to play some gigs, you know, like Man Made, we had some amazing audiences that were like, because we were all like dolled up in glitter, you know, and we got a lot of young gay kids, you know, like at our shows, and I still do, and it's one of the things I'm most proud of, that we weren't this like, we were never seen as this macho band, you know, and our gigs still don't feel like that, you know, and I like, you know, so our gigs, we'd get people like turning up in drag, we'd get like, it was like, we're gonna put on loads of glitter and, you know, have a fucking like riot. And so I've always cared about my audiences feeling really safe and comfortable, you know, so this is just an extension of that. So it's not fun for me unless I know everyone in the audience feels fucking safe.
Yeah, I think that's really sensible. It's good that you also try and like create obviously an atmosphere where everyone can be involved, and you know there will be a lot of people who would probably like to come and see you, but then again they might have people at home that, you know, like you say, it puts them in compromising positions, so it's quite
it's just sensible. Like, just, you know, let's just fucking, like, we will play again, you know. It's like things will happen again, you know, where you just like, I can wait, let's get everyone hanging, like let's all meet up when everyone can have an outrageous time, as opposed to like a guilty outrageous time, you know.
Well, it's a brilliant way to end the show, talking about the future of gigs that we all cared about. I'm sure everybody here has been to a few, and we all want it to be nice and safe again. But you've got an album coming out. Is there any way you'd like to plug it? You've made it to the end of the episode.
Yeah. Well, you know what, like, just because of coronavirus, even our physical records aren't even, I don't know when they're going to be out. They'll be out this year, but like, we haven't got the physical stuff in time because coronavirus has delayed it again. So just when the album comes out, like, stream it, enjoy listening to it, you know, like, I think it comes out on the 27th. It's like
Yeah.
I try and be entertaining on Instagram. You know, just follow me on Instagram. I feel like it's mostly like stupid, but you know, I feel like, you know, you guys run a fucking meme account. Like the internet is way more fun if you're just being stupid, you know. So just that, I feel like that's all the plugging I can do, you know. And the thing, what I miss most about gigs, the thing that I will leave it is, I don't miss the really amazing gigs. You know, the like one-off really amazing gigs that you see. I miss the casual, really shit gigs. Like,
Oh, I can absolutely understand that.
yeah. You know, when you just like, someone goes, "What are you doing tonight?" "Oh, nothing." You're like, "Do you want to see what bands are on?" You know, like at your good local. And you're like, "Yeah, do you want to see who's on?" And be like, "Yeah, it's probably going to be shit." And you just, you know, and you stand and you watch some absolutely insane thing happen that's just terrible, you know. I miss that.
Hopefully we can get it back soon enough then. I mean,
Yeah,
fingers crossed. It's looking slightly positive on the up and up at the moment, but we'll have to wait and see, won't we?
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
I just
nice
wanna-
one. Well,
Go on, mate. Sorry, were you saying something?
oh no, I was going to say, I was just like, yeah, no, thanks for having me on. Hopefully it was like entertaining and somewhat insightful, you know,
I'll
as
tell you
opposed
what,
to
you've been
just
a
like
fucking
listening.
class guest.
It's been a pleasure, mate.
No worries. Well, I mean, you know, if you ever get stuck and you want to have like a themed podcast or a discussion, I'm clearly not doing much, you know.
It sounds like you are.
It sounds like you got a lot on your plate, actually.
Yeah, I mean, you know, but there can always be time factored in the day, you know.
Oh, it's been quality to talk to you anyway. Hopefully we will take you up on that at some point, because I've really enjoyed talking to you, and I hope the people listening to this at home have as well.
Yeah, you know, no stress. Keep doing what you guys do as well. It's fucking entertaining.
Very welcome, mate. I think that's it. Thanks, everyone, for listening. It's been a pleasure. Thanks a lot.
Ta-ra.
Nice one.
Ta-ra.